You're watching Fairfield Public Access Television. I'm Susan Kessel, and with me today we have Hans Dokl. Welcome, Hans.
Hello.
Hans is the wonderful chef at the Fairfield Golf and Country Club. How long have you been in Fairfield?
4 years.
4 years.
Yep, 4 years.
And as we can tell from your accent, you're actually from Austria?
I'm from Austria, yes. And been in the States about 10 years now.
10 years.
10, 11, yeah. Yep.
Okay. So I came to Hans the other day and I said, would you like to do a show on soups? I think I'd been suffering from a cold, and it's fall and that time of year where people really like soups, and I do. I know my mother always used to fix soups, and also I think you're known for your soups. Is this a specialty?
No, not really. No, just, we try to stay homemade. We don't buy any soups. So, lots of our soups are, I guess, hearty soups. They look homemade. They are homemade. I mean, so I guess that keeps it a little bit more exciting than, if you would buy them or whatnot. So.
Right. I know that every time I come here, I say, what's the soup of the day? And one of my favorites is the Tomato Bisque, which happens to be what you're fixing today.
That's right. That's correct. Yep.
So I think what we'll do is we'll just go right into the kitchen here at the Country Club and watch what you do for the beginning of the day to get a soup ready, and we'll talk and I'll ask some questions while we're going along, and we'll just start like that.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, we're actually back in the Country Club kitchen. So this is not a place to be taping shows, so we're a little tight in here, but that's okay. And you have some staff?
Yeah, I have 2 people here in the mornings usually, which one I'd like to a little bit introduce here. His name is Tom Taggart. He's been at the Country Club for about 9 years now. He's kind of my right-hand man, and actually he already got us started here. And that's about it.
Okay, so we've got, we'll have our cameraman come back in here and get down to the close-up stuff.
Over here, we kind of, set up some stuff. I'm going to start with some fresh tomatoes. What we're going to do is we'll take take a knife, and we cut out the core.
Now, how much soup do you make for a day?
Usually make about 5 gallons, depending on the day. Tuesday usually a little bit busy at the Country Club, so 5 to 10 gallons. It really depends. What I'm going to show is just about enough for 8 to 10 people, so people can actually try it at home. And
now, if this is the recipe that we have out there in the dining room, you're going to need to write this down. I don't know if this is a secret or not, but
not at all.
I love it. So just go ahead.
So we cut out the core, and we'll make a little, I guess, crossing back. And we do this with about 10 tomatoes. So I guess you can count 1 tomato a person, just to help you along a little bit when you're doing it at home.
Oh, that's a good idea. I never thought of how to measure like that.
Yeah. In bigger kitchens, sometimes you get away from recipes. The more you do it, the easier it gets, and you know what to do, I suppose.
I know my husband, as you know, likes to cook, likes to think he's a cook, and he starts with a recipe, but then I don't know what happens to it.
Yes, it usually evolves, and you add your own little touches to it. So in the meantime, I'm doing this. Over here, we have a little water boiling. What we're going to do is we're going to blanch the tomatoes and get the skin off of the tomatoes, which takes about 15-20 seconds as soon as the water boils. And what that does, it just, in the soup, it makes a nice smooth consistency versus when the skins are in there. You could taste them, you could feel them in your mouth.
Now, my husband, I'm going to hate to keep mentioning him, he bought this contraption that you put it through the sieve kind of thing and it strips the peels off.
I heard. I don't like them myself.
Probably takes more time to
Takes
fool
more
around with
time,
that.
right? That's more for home use, I suppose. If you have a machine like that and it works, go right ahead. What I'm going to do here afterwards is I'm going to use just a standard blender, I guess, and blend it all up. If you have a food processor, that works really good. Now, we're still waiting for the water to boil. We're very close. In the meantime, I'm going to get me a pan over here.
These look like very well-used pans.
They are. They're actually very seasoned.
Seasoned, that's the word.
The more you use them, the better they are. I guess they won't stick or anything. Up here I have a little bit of butter. All this is clarified butter. I put about a couple of tablespoons in here and get it hot.
And you're going to saute the vegetables?
Some red onions, which I pre-cut here. Small diced red onions. Small diced celery. And onions and celery will take about the same amount of time, so we can saute them together. And basically all what's in this soup are tomatoes, onions or shallots. If you have shallots available to you, go right ahead. There's no rhyme or reason to what kind of onions you have to use. Celery, and then a lot of seasonings, from fresh garlic to fresh herbs if they're available to you, which, mentioning your husband, he did a wonderful garden this summer for us out on the golf course, and we've been, very heavily using them, and it does make a difference, using fresh stuff versus your dried stuff. So, I got a little bit of recipe here, which I'm looking at, and I don't know later on if you want to show it on FPAC or whatnot.
Okay.
But it has basil, oregano, rosemary, parsley. Again, if you can fresh, otherwise dried is, it's not as bad, but
This is not a diet soup. I see cream in there and sour cream. Makes it good.
Yeah, I mean cream is the second most ingredient in there after the tomatoes. Also, it has sugar in there. Now, sugar is a very important ingredient in this soup because depending on the season, the tomatoes might be very acidy or not. It really depends. Again, depending on what kind of tomatoes you use your aromas. You can use any of them, and it just depends on how they are and how acid.
And I never would have thought of sugar, but
sugar cuts the acid, is what it does. That's with anything. Anytime you use anything with a lot of acid, sugar will
neutralize that.
It. Mm-hmm. And this butter, I like to use butter again because we're going to use a lot of cream. You also may use olive oil if you like. It's another option. This is about one medium-sized onion, and I also have 2 tablespoons of garlic, fresh garlic in there already.
And you have a nice hot fire.
Yeah, it's very hot. And then we'll saute the onions and the celery together. Now you may try this at home, or you might use a spoon to stir it up.
Spoon for me. And then I clean up after Pat when he tosses. How many soups do you make here?
Well, we make one fresh one every day. So we open 5 days a week, sometimes 6, depending on what's going on. But so every day, we'll make a fresh soup.
I know another favorite is the potato of mine, and sometimes you have clam chowder.
Right, New England clam chowder is usually a Friday soup. Again, no reason behind it except that it's a seafood, and again it's Friday, so it really, I guess. Just became a tradition, I should say.
And you also have some great vegetable soups or pasta soups.
Again, there's no rhyme or reason to it. We do, whatever we have available and what is in season. It really depends. There's no. We try to be diversified a little bit.
Yes, it's nice to have an old favorite, but it's also nice to once in a while get a little surprise.
The tomato bisque is a soup people ask for, so that's why we do that quite often, at least once a week. But
I think that's my favorite. So we are lucky to be doing this today. Now, have you always been interested in cooking?
that's all I've been doing. Yeah,
Your whole life?
Yeah, my whole life. I started when I was 12. I actually took home ec in high school. So I was in, not saying it's just a girls thing, but I was in with a bunch of girls, and
most of the famous chefs in the world are men.
True, but there's lots of ladies too who are very great chefs. But yeah, I started when I was 12, and been doing it ever since. So
as far as cooking for other people, how old were you when you started that?
15. I started an apprenticeship, and I was an apprentice for about 3 years under, I won't say great chefs, but pretty good chefs over in Europe, and then just went to chef school, and that's it. So
you did go to chef school.
I went to chef school, and got certified in it.
And where was that?
It was in Austria. It's not a big school. It's not somewhat very famous, but it's a hotel management / chef school. So, and I spent 3 years there, and then got certified there.
So
what we want to do is we want to get this nice and brown, which we have right now, and I will shut this off. In the meantime, our water is boiling, and again, this is just water. I put a little bit of salt in there. It just helps the skin to loosen up. And what we'll do now is we'll take all the tomatoes, and be very careful. It's very hot. So again, you might want to use a spoon when you do this, just to put them in there. Put them all in for about 30 seconds. And then what we want to do is I'm going to have Tom get me some ice water here, and
okay.
Put them right in. Actually, it's already got it ready here for me.
Oh, perfect. So and that helps remove the skins after they're very hot.
Right, yeah, it cools it down immediately, and the skin will kind of like just loosen it by itself, and then all we have to do is peel it off.
Do you find that there's a difference in cooking in America and back in Austria?
Not really. I mean, there's
as far as what people like to eat?
Yeah. There's traditional food, in every country, I suppose. In every state here in the United States, you have your own traditions, In Iowa, like everybody knows, it's your pork state. I believe it is, probably the best pork I ever bought is right here. But, on the other side, I have a lot of difficulty finding fresh seafood, finding, or seafood, I guess, is the big one, go to the East Coast and whatnot. I actually have to fly it in special from either Chicago, Florida, which costs a lot of money, but, we try to do it every once in a while here. But versus Europe, it's just about the same. I mean, what people like is what they like, and the cooking methods never change, from what you do there versus what I do here. So.
Right.
All right. Bring this over here.
Now, do these immediately start to crack?
Yeah, that's why we made the little incisions in back too. I'll show you 1 second here.
I do remember my mother doing this when she would can tomatoes.
Right. If you look at the tomatoes here, they're already, now you can just go in and peel them off by hand, and the skin will just...
So it almost comes off in 4 pieces because of the way you've cut it.
Yeah. And it just helps, otherwise it would just peel on the top here. This way it also goes away.
Okay, well, I didn't know that. That's good to know.
This also works with peaches, plums. Anytime you need the skin off, this would be a great method.
So you actually heat those too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can, because all you do is, you do it so quick, the tomato is actually still hard, And see, sometimes you just have to help along with the knife a little bit, but it usually comes off.
Now, all these little details, do you do these yourself, or do you have someone help in the kitchen?
I have a couple of people here in the kitchen who, help along and do it. Again, I mentioned Tom in the beginning of your show. I also have another person, a cellar person, over on the other side. This kitchen is rather small, so you won't be able to see it. But there's people here doing salads during the day. There's also people here washing dishes during the day. We are not that big. This club has about 250 members or so.
And I know it is always hard to make everyone happy. You've got a lot of age groups here. You've got young kids, you've got elderly, you've got in between, and they've grown up with different tastes also. Kids and their junk food.
And what I try here is just keep the majority happy. That's about all. And that's
I know.
with any
What a hard
restaurant,
job.
I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you do a great job of it. And the menu changes,
At least once a year. I mean, we try to do it twice a year to keep it a little bit more interesting for the members, since it is the same people. We're a private club, so it is the same people coming out most of the time.
Right.
But at least once a year, which is usually in January. We're closed for a couple of weeks, and obviously golfing slows down, or there's none, depending on the weather. And it gives me a little bit of time to sit down and just work on the menu and whatnot.
Right.
One time in the summertime, if I have time. This summer, it's been a really great year here for the club, and we've been very busy, so I didn't have much time to sit around and.
To think.
That's right.
Now, your wife, Donna, also works here, and she does a wonderful job.
Yeah.
And what is her title?
Well, her title will be banquet manager. It's kind of like a co-manager. We kind of split it 50-50. She does the front of the house, which means training the wait staff. She takes care of all the purchases of your, your alcohol, your sodas. She does inventory of the same. She's very involved in parties, functions. We have weddings, rehearsal, reunions, setups. She does a great job. She's, couldn't do it by myself, being
I
in
can't
the back
imagine.
of the house, and also, watch the front of the house. So it's really great. Sometimes hard to work together, but it works great. So far, so good.
My mother was in the restaurant business when I was growing up. She worked for some chefs in California where movie stars used to go, and so she would work late at night, so I know the hours are difficult.
Yeah, the hours are difficult. They're better here, This is actually why I'm here, Some people might be wondering, what is he doing in Fairfield? But it's the hours, in a regular hotel where I used to work a little bit for Hyatts and Hiltons. In Scottsdale, Arizona for a while. I was up on Mackinac Island, the Grand Hotel for a while. And that's a 7-day-a-week job, and you work your 12-hour, 13-hour days. You become older, you have kids.
Right, you have to weigh what you really want.
And here at the club, the hours are really not bad. You have your evenings hour, but that's just the business, I suppose. But the hours are not, not as extreme as in the hotel business. So, all right. I finished peeling all the tomatoes. What I'll do now is just cut them in half. I guess the wide way, versus the long way.
Oh, okay.
What I will do now, I'll take the tomato and just squeeze. Squeeze it in a container. You can squeeze it in your garbage at home. All I do is de-seed them. I don't want a lot of seeds in the soup. So
Didn't know that either.
this way, all the seeds are out, and you're not wasting away. You could go and cut it out, but you would waste away quite a bit of the tomato.
So, wow, you're cutting it the opposite way that I would have cut it, and you're just wringing the seeds out, and they just come out easily.
Yeah, it's totally empty, and you won't have a lot of seeds in your soup. And again, this will work, you make a tomato sauce, you make it could be anything,
So you don't have to strain it out.
Right, yeah, basically. That's just a couple of, helpful hints. In the meantime, Tom probably will set me up the blender.
Okay, maybe we'll give our cameraman a little break.
Oh, he already has it.
No?
He already has it here. He's
Okay.
prepared. I'm just not paying attention, I guess. What I will do is, this is a food processor. I don't know lots of people probably have one at home, just like it. That's what it is. It's not commercial. It's just something I bought at Walmart. And all we're gonna do here is we'll use the cutting plate, and I will finish this. So maybe this is easier to see for people. Just squeeze out the.
That's amazing. How many years have I done things and not figured this out?
And if you want to do this really fast, there's another option, and I don't like it as much because I like to stay with fresh stuff, but you could use canned tomatoes.
Right, right.
Especially if you have them at home and you can them yourself, which, my wife at home, she does every year. She cans 50, 60 pounds of tomatoes.
Oh my goodness, on top of all this, she cans tomatoes.
She likes doing stuff like that. So at home, if I make it, I use that, which obviously is a fresh tomato, just the same. It's just, just canned, I guess.
Something smells good in here.
Yeah, we're already getting ready, a couple other things for lunch. Tom's working on different things over here. And usually, believe it or not, Tom's the guy who makes the soups in the morning. I usually come in and do a little bit of paperwork and whatnot.
Is this a recipe that you developed, or probably?
Oh well, if you would look up, on the internet or whatnot, where other people have recipes, it'd be kind of the same, but there's always your own touch you put in there. Like the sour cream, we just try to make it nice and creamy, and There's always a little bit of your own style in there, I suppose. You see it somewhere and you try to better it, I guess. So all I'm gonna do here now is just blend them up. What you want to do here is really fine. You don't want to have no big lumps in there either. You want to blend it to a really fine consistency. And you see, there's not a lot of seeds left in
looks
there.
Looks
good. That's what we kind of want. And then what we'll do here is just grab us another little pot.
I wonder how old this kitchen is.
I'm guessing, somewhere in the 60s, and there's been a lot of add-ons, and some of the equipment you see here is new equipment I bought since I've been here. It just needs a lot of attention. It needs a lot of, we try to keep it clean. I'm really into the cleaning part. I would say it's probably one of the cleaner kitchens around. I'm very up to health code, health standards. We get checked just the same as any other business does twice a year. Which is the state of Iowa. And, it's very important that you stay clean, work clean. And, I try to teach that. And thank God I have the same people here. The turnover is not as high. I'm lucky there. In a hotel, again, the turnover will be really high and whatnot. And so we work good together, and everybody knows what has to be done. So
and they probably have their own area they concentrate on and clean.
Yeah, basically. Now I'm just going to take the pureed tomatoes and put it in a pot. Turn it back on about medium heat and add.
Oh, you're adding the cream now?
I'm adding it right now, yeah. Because we already sautéed the onions and the celery, and we're just going to add that all in there.
So much for my wonderful diet soup that I think I'm being so good. But you have to enjoy something.
Could you give me a bit? Sorry.
I suppose I could be helping here.
Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to finish this up quick so we have them all in here.
I was just thinking of how many people you serve, and going through this every day, it'd be like having a constant party.
That's true, yes.
Luckily, it's not at your house, but it's your house, basically. It's your kitchen.
It's just a job like any other. You go to work every day, and then I guess you get used to it. You know what you have to do the day before, so...
And I suppose the menu is planned out so that you're using different things from the same thing.
And I mean, on Saturday, you know, we are closed Sundays and Mondays on the food service side. And on Saturday, we already plan what we're going to do on Tuesday. So, you know, you have to...
Yeah, my cameraman just wondered what you eat on your days off.
Actually, believe it or not, my wife cooks on my days off. I don't do nothing
Stay
at all.
away from the kitchen. I don't blame you.
Yeah, she's a great cook. She really anything, you know. Like last night, you know, we had chicken. I don't, you know, just the same probably like everybody else does.
And you also have a little boy to make happy too.
True. I have a little 3-year-old. He's busy. We are busy with him right now.
I also know that Donna is with Weight Watchers here in town and has been very, very successful.
Right.
And also, she's a leader right now. Is that right?
Yeah, she's a leader. She, you know, she does classes, you know, on the program. From my side, you know, doing what I do, you know, I'm not a spokesperson for Weight Watchers, but it works really great, and I know a lot of ladies were on it. I think you were one of the ladies.
Yes, I did, and I need to go back.
You know, and
But
that really works.
it's a good, healthy program.
It's a healthy program. You can eat whatever you want. You just have to watch how much you eat, and you know, it's a point system where you count your points all day. It's the only thing I ever seen work. And you know, being in this business, I know of a lot of diets, from your Atkins to Jenny Craig, where you have to buy everything. This really works, you know.
Yes.
And,
Now, do you have people come in and say, "Oh,
I do, you know, and I have people ask, you know, since they know Donna is a leader for Weight Watchers, how many points is in this, how many points is in
I'm
this.
guilty
We don't
of
want
that.
to talk about the soup today,
No.
because we don't want to count the points there, but, you know.
But like I said, that's okay. You have to realize that you have to eat, and you have to keep yourself happy and healthy.
I guess just to finish up here till it starts boiling, which will take about 10-15 minutes here now. We'll have some dry herbs here, which is parsley, oregano, rosemary, basil, and I also have some fresh here. This is the, you know, we're in the month of October. Our garden does not look too good anymore. It's all starting to, you know, die off out there. But what I will have Tom do here in the meantime, when we finish up, is, you know, dice up some of the fresh, again, basil, rosemary, oregano, parsley, and put it in the soup. I'll add a little bit of the dry. It takes quite a bit of herbs. And again, looking at the recipe, it's about a tablespoon of each for what I'm making. Tom on this side here is making a big pot of the same. You know, since I said we need 5 to 10 gallons, this won't be enough for lunch today. You can look at them, you know, they look exactly the same if you want to come over here.
So those are all the same soups for today.
Oh, well, just the two up front,
the two
yeah.
up front.
In fact, we are making a sauce, it's a bechamel. You know, it's a white wine cream sauce again,
Okay.
which we use during the evenings hours for different seafood dishes, different pasta dishes. So now all we have to do is, you know, wait. I should add my onions and celery. Did you do that already? Did you do it?
Did we do that?
No, we didn't. I had. There's a town probably put it all in here. We're gonna mix it together anyhow. Is what's gonna happen. So now all we have to do is wait for the boil, and then we'll season it up with salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic again. I'm gonna add a little bit of white wine before it starts boiling, which I just use a regular Chablis, a cooking Chablis.
And this is in the soup.
It's in the soup, yes, yeah. And you know, if people are afraid about the alcohol, it will evaporate.
It cooks out.
Yeah, it cooks out. So you know, there's actually no danger there of getting
Right.
intoxicated or whatnot. So, some people are afraid of feeding it, you know, of feeding their kids. You know.
See, I
anything
never
that-
would have guessed. It's just for a little bit of flavor.
And that's it. And now we're just waiting for the both pots to boil, and then we'll thicken it up. What we made here, it's called a roux.
Okay. I've heard of roux, but
Which
how
one-
is it made?
There's a couple different kinds. You can make a light roux and a dark roux, and it depends on what you make. This is a light roux. It's all it is butter and flour.
Is this for thickening?
It's for thickening, yeah. And what it does is, the reason you make a roux is, would you just put flour in there, which it would thicken it too, but it would be lumpy. This way, you won't get any lumps. You know, and it cooks out really nice. And the difference in the colors, you know, it depends on what you make. The light one, obviously we're making a cream soup, so we want a light one. We don't want to darken up the soup. We're on a dark roux where you brown the butter a little bit more, and it actually be dark brown. You would use for stews, ragout, and you know, things like that. And so basically that's all we're waiting for. And then we have to taste it and just see. Again, I haven't put any sugar in this yet or anything, because I don't know what the tomato will do to it. So that won't be done till the end, to see if the soup, you know, if it needs, if it's acid and it needs a little bit cut down. We may not even need any. So, you know, it's going to be an optional thing at the end when we actually taste it.
No, it's very hot back here. This is on. How come this is on already?
Well, we open in 45 minutes. We open at 11:30 for lunch. You know, this is a charbroiler where you do all your lunch. We sell a lot of sandwiches. You know, hamburgers, chicken
So
sandwiches.
this is going all the time?
We turn it on when we get here. You know, at 10.
And it goes all day long?
We shut it off in the
Okay.
most of the time. It goes all day long. Yeah, we shut it off for a couple hours. You know,
That explains why when you go in a restaurant and they'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't do that," or something is shut off, down.
It takes. That's correct. You know, that's lots of people don't know that.
I didn't.
It takes an hour, you know, hour and a half for it to actually heat up to the point where, you know, you can start cooking on it. You know, it's not like at home where you do everything on a stove, electric or gas. You know, same with the deep fryers. They take a half an hour to come up to 350 degrees, because there's so much oil in there. You know, it takes a while to heat it up. So.
Well, while we're waiting here, can we walk around and? So this is the deep fat fryer.
Yeah, deep fat fryers. You know, we have two of them. One of them is just for seafood, your fish, shrimp, and whatnot, and the other one will be for French fries.
Because you don't want to pick up the fish taste on the
Right,
other.
that's what the French fries would do. You know, and potatoes or your vegetables. If you do some cauliflower, you want, you know, teriyaki style or whatnot, it will pick up the flavor of the seafood, and you know, so that's why most places have two. You keep that separate. You know, we've seen the stove. This is just a regular grill where you do, you know, you brown your buns. You we don't, you know, you do your American fries or hash browns. Or it's a big frying pan. As you can see, we're not very big. You know, we have, you know, a little bit of prep area, working area.
So basically, this is it right here.
This is it, yeah. You know, we serve quite a few people out here. You know, and on a good night, we do a couple hundred. You know, 150 people, and not more than 2-3 people can work back here, so it becomes tight, you know, when we do have a lot going on. And you know, behind you it's mostly
walk over here. You've got a couple refrigerators, freezers.
This is just a warming unit where you you know, if you do plated meals, you just put them in here to keep them warm. This is like a big slow cooker here. You know, we call it an Alto-Shaam. You will put in a slow cooker. Yeah, you put in a piece of meat for 10 hours, let's say a roast beef or a prime rib or whatnot. And what it does, it cooks it so slow, it keeps the juices inside. The juices, you know, if you put it in a regular oven, the juice, it would just dry it out. This way it stays nice and moist, and that's the only reason this machine is here. And this is our big, you know, convection oven. It has two parts to it, and this is the main equipment in here. This is what you cook any baked potato, any breads we do, anything you cook in here. You know. Couldn't do without it. And again, you see a little bit of prep areas, storage areas for, a couple of little cans and whatnot we keep. And if you take the camera over there, we have a little salad prep area. And this is just where all the salads are done and where the salad bar is prepared. And, again, it's very little, but it,
So you're keeping the meats away from the vegetable salad area, and just makes common sense. And then behind our cameraman is a very big machine. It is a mixer.
A big mixer, yeah. It's actually an old Hobart mixer, but it works great. I mean, it's probably been here forever. You do your, again, we do fresh mashed potatoes. I mentioned before, I don't use much powder nor can or whatnot if I don't have to. So anytime we do big batches of mashed potatoes, dressings, if we make ranch dressings, it has many uses. Baking, anytime you make a dough, you use this machine. It has the different attachments like you have at home, maybe on your little mixer, the dough.
Wow. That's a big one. You're known here for having your Austrian night also, which is Schnitzel?
Schnitzel nights, yeah. I try to do different. Every month I pick kind of like a ethnic month, I guess, if that might be Mexican, German, Austrian. The Schnitzel night, the Austrian night has been my main one. People just like it, I do all kinds of Vienna Schnitzel, Jäger Schnitzel, any kind of Schnitzel you can think of.
I didn't know there was more than one kind, but eating here, I've learned that.
Yeah, that's quite a few. And the Vienna, probably the most famous one of all, which is just a breaded veal cutlet. We serve with German potato salad and some sweet red cabbage, and it's been a big hit here at the country club. So
sounds good.
So it's again, since the membership is the same or close to the same people, you try to come up with a few different things, which you have to, otherwise it get pretty boring.
Right.
So.
Although some of us have our favorites, so we tend to come and order the same thing.
We usually come back to it.
Yes, I know my husband and I have eaten so many of your Mediterranean vegetable sandwiches. They are wonderful.
True. Yeah, it's not a unique item here, I guess, but people really like it, and I do sell a lot of them, so that's why I keep it on the menu,
And Donna just walked through, but we didn't get to catch her on the camera. That's okay. Should we go over and see how the soup is coming? Not quite yet. What are we doing here with this pasta?
We're just going to cook some fettuccine pasta. It's for in the evenings. What we used to do, again, we over the last 2 years, we've become, I guess, really busy, I should say. And we try to cook them fresh in the evenings, every evening, basically to order. But it didn't work out because we sell so much, so we kind of pre-cook them in the morning to like al dente, which, to the bite, I guess.
That makes sense to me.
And then just, use them that way. So that's what he's doing here. He's already, for lunch, again, as I said before, we served a lot of sandwiches and whatnot. So we're already getting ready for dinner at the same time. You couldn't, if you wouldn't go ahead, work ahead a little bit, you wouldn't be able to do it. Yeah, you couldn't, so. So the whole day starts already with lunch and dinner, not just lunch,
I know pastas have become a real favorite, I think. I don't know if this is just in recent years.
It's been, I think people, I shouldn't say away from the meat, but I think pasta dish, a little bit, I think. And pasta dishes, you can just do a lot with pasta. There's a lot of things you can do with the same thing if you think about it. If you use a fettuccine pasta, you can make many dishes out of the same. Where on a steak is a steak. There's some things you can do, but it's just the same. And especially in this town, there's a lot of vegetarians. So pasta is one thing. Some vegetarians do eat. It's just become more and more a choice.
Well, I think we will give our cameraman a little break from holding this camera and check on our soup in a few minutes. Okay, after a short break, where are we?
We're back. The soup is boiling by now. And what I forgot to mention before the break, you have to stir it. You're gonna have to keep stirring it, continuously, because with the cream in it and whatnot, it doesn't boil for a long time. But once it does, you might have a big mess if you don't watch it. Plus, it starts setting on the bottom, so you have to keep stirring it. Also, Tom just added the fresh herbs. We talked about, he chopped up some basil, some oregano, some parsley. And before we finish thickening it up, I usually have little spoons here, and I'm just gonna try it, to see where we are. Which it's actually rather good. I will add a little bit of sugar, like 1 tablespoon or so for the amount we made. Tomatoes are very good, so there wasn't much acid there. I will add a little bit of salt, and this is just regular table salt like you would have at home. And most of the people probably have one of them too. Some fresh ground pepper, black pepper, just a little bit. And fresh ground is always better. It gives you a better flavor than. And then what we'll do is, and Tom will do it, just take a little bit of the roux, a little bit at a time. Now here's another thing you have to be very careful with, because if you over thicken it, it's going to turn into cement. It's going to get too thick. So he'll do a little bit at a time and just bring it back to a boil. Anytime you put in a little bit and it comes back to a boil, that's how you can tell the consistency. Either gets, obviously it won't get any thinner, but how thick it's going to get just by the bubbles, And then the consistency, I'm looking for is if I take a little plate and I put a little bit on a spoon, and again, it depends how thick you like it. But the way I do it here, if it stays nice on the plate and it covers it like this, it's thick enough. It doesn't run off the plate. Yeah, so that's how I tell. And now what we'll do is, if you use a roux, you probably should boil it another 5 minutes or so to get the flour taste out. Anytime you add flour to something, you'll have a little, that's a flour taste, I don't even know how to explain. And you want to cook that out.
Okay.
And so you just, on low, he turned the heat down by now. So on really low, let it boil for a couple of minutes, simmer basically. And if you're wondering, he's making the same thing over on this side again, just in a bigger pot.
Now, how do you keep this throughout the day?
Well, out in the dining room we have a soup pot, which is like a double boiler, so as soon as lunch starts we put a big container out there, and this will just cool down immediately, and usually ice bath in the sink. And in the evening we just heat it back up, And what will happen as soon as it gets cold, it'll thicken up more, it just gets stocky, and we'll just add a little bit of milk in the evening hours to get it back to the consistency what we have right now. And I guess to finish it up now, what we can do is I'm gonna try it one more time. And I've been using fresh plates here. I have to say Tom did a great job once again.
Both of you.
And to serve it, if I would, we put it out on a buffet where people can just take it themselves, or we would serve it by the bowl. So what I'll do here quick for us is just, I got a bowl sitting here, just take the bowl over here.
I have to say you're very nice at presentations too. I know the desserts always have nice little squiggly, either fruit or chocolate and sprinkles.
Yeah. This is one of the things I guess I learned way back when I first started in this business, and I had quite the chef back then. His famous saying, and I guess never forget, is you eat with your eye first, and that stuck with me over the years. And it is true. I mean, if it's appealing to you,
Probably
It
all
makes
of
you more
your-
hungry. It, it looks good. You want to eat it versus if it's just plain and it's just.
All of your senses. Your
That's
sight
correct.
and the
That's
smell
correct.
and,
That's correct. Yeah. And I just never forgot that, and I try to stick with it. If that is, with garnishing, there's lots of places who don't garnish. I think it's important just, because of the way it looks.
Yes.
And again, to finish up talking about garnish, this is where the sour cream comes in. The sour cream is not actually inside the soup. What we do is we put a little slab on top here. And I got some fresh chives here, which again, this could be anything in your dinner group or wherever you're doing it.
Very nice.
That's it. And again, you could use a little bit of fresh oregano or something, whatever you like. There you go. This is the tomato bisque.
Wow. Thank you very much,
You're welcome.
Hans, for taking the time this morning and visiting with us and sharing this wonderful tomato bisque soup recipe with us.
Definitely. Thanks for coming, and come back if you like.
Okay, thank you.